Thanks for sticking around. I'm the sort of, think of me as the sort of palate cleanser in between a series of people talking about fiber and some serious science and technology that goes into powering the internet. I'm on the lighter side. So I'm talking about what I do and some of the things that I've been working on with the organization that I created called Goodnik. So let me give you a little brief overview of what Goodnik is, and then I'll get into this platform that I'm launching that I'm hoping to get some support from you around. So I started an organization about 1.5 years ago called Goodnik, and we are a support network or resource organization for social entrepreneurs and nonprofit organizations. When I say social entrepreneurs, I include both for-profit, nonprofit, and those folks who really haven't even thought about the question about what their business model is. We are business model agnostic. So what do? We provide a variety of resources for social entrepreneurs, and that includes various programs, workshops, seminars, hackathons. We have an upcoming unconference that we're putting together that will be happening in July that is going to be called the Social Impact Super Collider. And those are the kinds of activities that we do on a regular basis. The cornerstone of the organization right now is what we call the Goodnik in Residence program, where we partner with co-working spaces around the city who donate space to Goodnik, and then we, in turn, pair them with social entrepreneurs who need office space in order to get their businesses off the ground. And that's really what Goodnik is about, is providing those infrastructure resources, that sort of key assistance at an early stage when an organization or a business is trying to get off the ground and may need a little bit of help in terms of finding the resources that they need. So that's what Goodnik is about. All right. So what I've been working on most recently, and what I'm here to sort of give you an early preview of, is what I call the Goodnikels platform. And is this feedback that's happening? All right. So the Goodnikels platform is about creating an alternative currency specifically to support social entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs who want to help them. So what's the problem? The problem is that social impact organizations and many other nonprofits often have more time than they have money. And they have a difficult time identifying the professionals that they can work with who are willing to work with them at the budget that they have. And so it makes it very difficult for them to get the support they need. On the other side, there are many professionals who want to contribute to social impact organizations, but who want to make sure that their impact is valued, that that the organization that they're working with is actually going to be helped in a very tangible way, and that they, as a service provider, are going to get something out of that relationship. And that's really why Goodnikels was created. So Goodnikels is a time-based alternative currency system that allows impact organizations to effectively hire professionals at a market rate and then have those people do work for them, and then those people get paid in the alternative currency, which they can then in turn use to hire other professionals to work with them. So in this diagram, it shows how the Goodnikels enter the system. So an impact organization gets a grant or a loan for a certain amount of Goodnikels. These Goodnikels are then taken by the impact organization, who then uses them to hire some kind of professional. In this case, for instance, a web developer. So if a nonprofit organization decides that they need a new website, they get some Goodnikels, they go out and they hire a web developer. That web developer then in turn can say, oh, I need a new logo or a new pamphlet or something that I want to hire a graphic designer for. And they can then hire that graphic designer using those same Goodnikels that they just earned from working with the impact org. And then the designer can then hire an accountant, the accountant can hire a web developer, and the circle continues. So the Goodnikel is 1/10 of an hour of professional services. Think of it as about 5 minutes worth of time, or about the price of a beer. I can't technically put a dollar value on it because of certain IRS rules. But at its core, that's basically what it is. So 10 Goodnikels is an hour's worth of service. As I mentioned, Goodnikels are minted through some kind of service to an impact organization, through any kind of professional services. And then once those good nickels are minted, they then enter the currency exchange and the economy, and then transfer between various impact organizations and private sector companies. So the way that good nickels then are used primarily is really in support of communities. And that's why, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you guys about this was because I see that the real impact of this is working within company or organizations like ISOC or other co-working spaces, affinity groups, or co-working spaces or alumni organizations, specifically to work within those organizations to support each other. And that's how I see good nickels being most effective. So that is good nickels in a nutshell. And so I will answer a few questions if anybody has any. By the way, most people should have gotten some good nickels. If you haven't, there's a wooden good nickel outside that you can get. There's a code on the back that you can then use to redeem at beta.goodnikels.com, and we'll give you a free account balance of some good nickels to start. So the first question in the back.
So how are you funded?
I am funded, pretty much this entire project is funded out of my own pocket. Goodnik as an organization has been sort of a passion project of mine that only, sort of more recently took on more responsibility and is in need of more funding. But right now it's completely self-funded.
I don't understand how this can work in the face of things like taxation laws, labor laws, where in the exchange of services normally, New York City, New York State, IRS, they want a percentage, they want the whole concept of wages, and there's a income, et cetera, and I just don't see how that you get around that system.
Yeah, that is true in general. However, this is what is called a time bank, and the time bank exists under specific IRS rules that essentially exempt it from that kind of requirement. My understanding, and you'll have to check with your accountant on this and your lawyer, but my understanding is that if you're exchanging an hour's worth of your time for an hour's worth of somebody else's time, whether you use a currency to keep track of who's doing what for whom or not, that is exempt from any kind of taxation. So this is not like Bitcoin. This is not like a barter exchange where you're transferring services for goods or one kind of good for another good, which has a market value. As long as it's kept within a time-based transfer, it's exempted from those kind of rules.
Are you plugged into Our Worlds?
I'm not.
Our Worlds, HOURworlds.org.
Okay.
They've taken all the different time-based currencies and tried to turn it into something that's replicable. How many users do you have?
Right now we're working with a beta group of about 30 different organizations that have started projects on the site. So if you go to beta.goodnikels.com, you'll see some of the profiles of people that have started using the product.
So it's more geared for organizations, although it could be certain individuals, but...
Well, the primary purpose of the platform is to support social entrepreneurs and impact organizations. So those are the companies that we're starting out with. As the system grows, more professionals join the system. They can support each other by doing professional services for each other. A certain percentage of the economy is always going to go to supporting, through grants or loans, some kind of impact organization.
If you had to guess how many social entrepreneurs are in America, what do you think?
8.4 million.
Right on. I say it's somewhere between 5 and 10 million, but people start to
I
argue.
think we're right on those.
Yeah. So, and there's 100 million, give or take, conscious producers. There's 1 out of 4 people that are like low lifestyles of health and sustainability, that they walk or bike to work and they lessen their footprint on the earth, and they're trying to create some sort of a holistic approach. And there's 40 million people that are in business for themselves, and there's 10 million social innovators, social entrepreneurs. And if there's 100 million people stepping into a conscious production, we're making a shift from generation to generation wealth, industrial to information idea, and from unconscious consumption to conscious production, those of us that have that platform. Anyway, so your hope is to grow the beta from here?
That's right. So one of the reasons I'm doing this outreach is because I'd like more people to experiment with the system, sign up for a profile, and if you have an interest in creating a project or doing something within the system, happy to talk to people offline. Email me at nate@goodnik.org, and I'm happy to talk with people about grants and loans to kind of get this off the ground. This, by the way, is just a quick kind of overview of what the site looks like. People posting projects, specifying what it is that they're working on, what their cause is that they're supporting, what skill they're looking for. That's how the sort of system looked, not perfectly represented on this particular screen.
Thanks so much. I was wondering if somebody wanted to, for instance, I've looked a lot at LETS or local exchange trade systems. Is this akin to that? Is that a service you provide? If a community wanted to start their own, I'm starting my own currency for a community. It's similar in a lot of nature. I'd like to either be able to partner with or be some kind of like I don't know if you offer franchising or
so within the system,
or if you could open source some of the lessons you've learned on the way. Thanks so much.
So I'm currently examining what it takes to open source this software. So I need to look at open source licenses and what that means in terms of limiting. You know, I obviously wanted this to be out there and usable by the community, but I want it to be not co-opted or abused by other parties who are outside of this community, right? In terms of partnerships and other currencies exchanges, I'm happy to talk to anyone about partnerships and figuring out a way to make that work. Obviously, there's some complexity when you're trying to marry one currency with another, especially when it comes back to IRS rules. If it starts to fall into a barter exchange or some other sort of virtual or similar to a cryptocurrency kind of system, it could be problematic. As the system stands now, anybody can create a community within this and trade exclusively within that community. So if somebody wants to start their own ISOC community specifically and work within the system and only trade with people who are in ISOC, that's certainly possible within the system, and the Goodnikels would be the currency that they would use, but they would sort of maintain that within their community specifically. Outside of that, if you want to have some other currency kind of coming into the system, that's where it gets more complicated.
Are all transactions transparently logged?
No, all transactions are not transparently logged. So right now, it's a very minimal product, and I've got an admin back end, and I can see what's going on, but there's no external ability to audit that system at this point.
Thanks.
Have you tried to connect with PopTech or TED or TEDx or any of the, I mean, if there's 8.4, you said...
I made that number up, just to be clear.
Well,
yeah.
between 5 and 10. I think
between 5 and 10.
And if you, all the usual suspects, Green America and TED and TEDx and PopTech and Good.is and Idealist and... that it wouldn't be that hard to identify those 8.4 million people don't know about each other, and we certainly don't know around them. So those of us that can use all of our influence right here, right now, all at once, could pretty much create a demand for our services as our...
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm looking to get this in front of as wide an audience as possible because the more people using it, the more valuable it is to everybody who's part of the system. I'm going to be presenting at New York Tech Meetup next month, so I'm going to have that beginning of a larger audience, and that's why it's important that if you're interested in using the system, help me sort of get it going before New York Tech Meetup, and then hopefully we can find some people to work on your projects and help you guys out.
Have you tried to think about tying it into a gift card?
No, that's where it gets really complicated. Yeah, right now I'm just looking at just maintaining this as a time bank and...
in the bigger picture, trying to create some sort of a value incentive for your user.
That's certainly an option.
Exchange this for that.
Yeah. So in the future, there are other opportunities. I would like to explore ways in which Goodnikels could be used to pay for classes, pay for meetups, pay for conferences like this one, that they might be used to pay for co-working space, that they might be used to pay for beer, which is, I think, ultimately what everybody's goal is with any alternative currency. So down the line, I'm hoping that there are going to be opportunities to do that. Right now, as we launch this and kind of get this beta going, it's really just an early stage. All right, thanks, Jim.